Okay, it looks like we are live.
All right, great. And it is 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. And if other people join in, then we'll welcome them. But good evening. My name is Don Sherrill. I'm the Director of Public Works for the City of Brookhaven. Tonight's virtual public forum is being presented by representatives from Gresham Smith, to include Aaron Thorson, Chelsea Lincoln, and Nathan Gomez. Purpose of this forum is to provide an update of the Dresden Drive intersection improvement study and the data obtained over the past few months. This update is available on our website for anybody that would like to see the information. And with that, I'm going to turn to Erin so she can talk about the study. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Don. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for taking the time to be with us this evening. My name is Erin Thorson. I'm a transportation planner with Gresham Smith, and I'm joined today by my colleagues, Chelsea Lincoln, one of our traffic engineers, and Nathan Gomez, who is our project manager for this study. So just a brief reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and there will be a recording available following the meeting. We are going to carve out some time at the end of the presentation for questions and answers. If you do have questions, please type them in the Q&A that's located at the bottom of your screen there. And then we'll go ahead and our moderator will read those out when we get to that point in the agenda. So for today's presentation, we're going to talk a little bit about the study and kind of how we got to where we are today. We're also going to talk a little bit about the new data that we have collected over the last couple of months and the assumptions and kind of process for analyzing that data. And then we'll provide a summary of kind of our next steps and where we're headed from this point forward. So this meeting is the third in a series of public meetings actually related to this Dresden Drive intersection improvement analysis. And today's update, as Don mentioned, is to kind of talk a little bit about the new data that we've collected and the process that we're going through for analyzing that data. So we wanted to provide a little bit of context for those who may not have heard about the study or for people who didn't participate in our previous meetings that took place last year. So taking a step back, last spring, the city of Brookhaven started a study to examine safety and operations at 4 key intersections along Dresden Drive: Apple Valley, Ellijay, Caldwell, and Claremont. And that analysis was based on approved and planned developments in the area. And then in the fall, after developing initial recommendations and receiving community feedback, the city decided to expand the analysis area to include additional intersections and streets in Brookhaven Fields and Ashford Park. It was also decided to analyze traffic impacts in the newly expanded study area based on all potential and planned developments within the vicinity of Dresden Drive, not just the approved ones. So this is just a quick snapshot of the timeline for this new and updated phase of the study. After discussions with the city last fall and into December, we agreed on a timeline that would begin in January with collecting new traffic count data. So we've collected that data and are here today to present the newly collected data and the assumptions that go into our analyses. And next month, we'll hold another public meeting to present the revised traffic study and draft recommendations. And you can see that here shown in April. We anticipate wrapping up the project with a presentation to the mayor and council in May, and the final report will be submitted sometime in the first half of June. So that's all laid out here in this graphic. So this is just a slightly more detailed synopsis of the revised approach to the study. I had already mentioned that the expansion of the study area and the analysis of new traffic count data that were collected in January of 2022. And my colleague Chelsea will talk a little bit more about that when she shares some of our initial results in a few minutes. We're revising the traffic study using the updated assumptions and new data to reflect all potential and planned developments, and are looking at 3 different future growth scenarios on 3 different time horizons. This analysis allows us to identify the increases in traffic volumes at all study intersections and roadway segments, and to look more closely at capacity at a few key intersections along the study corridor. We'll be developing recommendations based on this revised analysis and holding 2 additional public meetings as part of the process, one of which is the one we're in here tonight. So to talk a little bit more about the details, I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, so new data. Next slide. The update expanded the study area to include additional intersections and roadway segments along Dresden Drive, as well as the surrounding neighborhoods, as Aaron previously mentioned. To complete the update, new turning movement counts were collected at each study intersection, and new 24-hour counts were collected along each study roadway segment. Next slide. So here the update includes the 21 intersections shown here, which fall along Dresden Drive, as well as at key intersections along Briarwood, North Druid Hills, and Reading Road. These are the intersections along Dresden Drive, which were identified, plus the key entry points from the surrounding roadways into Brookhaven Fields and the Ashford Park neighborhoods, both on the north and south sides of Dresden. Next slide. The update also includes the 22 roadway segments shown here. Similarly, based on our expanded area of analysis, not only are we looking at Dresden Drive, but we're also looking at the roadways within those surrounding neighborhoods. Next slide. So now we'll talk about the study assumptions and processes for analysis. As Aaron previously mentioned, the study analysis was also updated to include all future plan and potential development along Dresden Drive. So this includes not only the development properties that are currently approved by the city, but also all parcels identified for potential future redevelopment. These properties are listed here and shown in the highlighted areas on the map to your right. Anticipated traffic volumes generated by all of these developments were added on top of the traffic projections for each background growth scenario, which we'll cover on the next slide. Future traffic volumes were developed based on growth analysis from 3 different sources: recent historical growth, population projections, and future traffic projections from the Atlanta Regional Commission's travel demand model. Plus, as I just mentioned, the traffic generated by future development was added on top of the grown volumes. 9 different combinations of analyses were performed across 3 different background growth scenarios: low, medium, and high, for 3 different analysis years, 2027, 2037, and 2047, which are the 5, 15, and 25-year horizons. Based on the future volumes, increases in traffic at all study intersections and roadway segments were identified under each growth scenario for each analysis year. Additionally, intersection capacity analysis, which includes level of service and delay, was also performed at 5 key intersections. These intersections include the 4 study intersections that were originally analyzed in the previous study, which are Dresden Drive at Apple Valley, Ellijay, Caldwell, and Claremont. Additionally, based on response to feedback from the community that we received last fall, Dresden Drive and Peachtree Road was also added to this analysis, given its impact on the Dresden corridor. So with all of the analysis that we performed, and as part of this update, we identified increases in traffic volume at different locations and at key intersections. And we've done capacity analysis to understand levels of service and delay. All of that information and analysis is included in the traffic study technical memo and its accompanying appendices, which has been uploaded to the project website. You can review all of the analyses there and provide comments to the project team. So to give you a snapshot of the full analysis and to better understand the information provided in the technical memo, we want to take just a few minutes to review just one of the 9 analysis scenarios that are included in that report. So among the 3 different growth scenarios, the low, medium, and high, let's take a look at the analysis results under the medium growth scenario for the 2047 analysis year. So again, this is just one example of the 9 different analysis combinations. And also, again, we can take any questions at the end. So what's shown here are the percent increases in traffic volumes for the AM peak hour at the study intersections. And again, note, this is percent increases in traffic, not necessarily the amount increase in traffic at these locations. As shown, the majority of new traffic is expected to end up at the Apple Valley intersections due to the additional surrounding developments that are planned in that area. Next slide. Here we have the percent increase in traffic volume for the PM peak hour. Similar to the AM, similar trends are shown here for the PM peak period. Next slide. Here we've shown the percent increase in traffic volumes along the study roadway segments. Again, this is percent increase that's depicted here, not actual amount increase. Similar to the intersection analysis, the roadways adjacent to the new developments show the highest percent increase in volume. Next slide. Okay, so in the last step of our analysis, to identify recommendations at key intersections, as I mentioned before, intersection capacity analysis was performed to understand the anticipated levels of service and the delays experienced by motorists at these intersections. This will help inform our recommendations as we go. We looked at 5 key intersections, as I mentioned previously, to perform the capacity analysis along Dresden Drive. And again, this is just a snapshot of the analysis under the medium growth scenario for the 2027 analysis year. So if you look at that scenario for the AM and PM peak hours, as shown here, the Peachtree Road intersection is expected to operate at a level of service F with a high degree of delay. Similarly, Apple Valley during the PM peak hour also exhibits a high delay and a level of service F. All the other intersections that we perform capacity analysis show a level of service D or below. So while there may be other targeted improvements that need to be identified at these locations, this is just a snapshot of what the analysis has found. And again, will be a basis for our recommendations moving forward. So with that, I will hand it over to Nathan. Aaron, next slide.
So to talk about some of the next steps as far as the study is concerned, the analysis that Chelsea went over will be the baseline for the recommendations that we'll be doing. Aaron, if you can move to the next slide. So based on the different types of analysis that Chelsea talked about, including the increases in traffic volumes on the roadway segments, and also the capacity analysis that we performed at the intersections, which tells us the level of service and also the delay experienced by motorists at those intersections, we'll be developing these recommendations. There are different types of recommendations that we are anticipating that will be developed as part of the study, which will be based on the most likely growth scenario. So one of the types of the recommendation is to understand intersection improvements at the key intersections. So those key intersections that we talked about before by mode of travel to address folks driving, walking, and also biking. Another type of recommendation that we're looking at is turn restrictions at intersections. So prohibiting a particular turn, either a left turn or a through movement or a right turn as applicable to address the cut-through traffic that might be going through the neighborhood or the traffic calming concerns. Similarly, another type similar to the intersection turn restrictions is roadway access restrictions. An example of that might be considering cul-de-sacs at certain locations. So if you were to consider direct travel between, say, Peachtree and Dresden, there might be some roadways that we can target for some of these access restrictions to really address the cut-through traffic that is experienced in some of those neighborhoods, plus also the traffic impacts due to all these additional developments that is expected to come online, the potential ones and also the planned and approved ones. Similar to the recommendations, for the other two less likely growth scenarios, which are the low and the high growth scenarios, we'll also be looking to develop some considerations as part of this effort. And another type of recommendation that we're looking at is we know that the city of Brookhaven is committed to updating the bike ped trail plan with a new multimodal plan in the near future, which will be looking at bicycle accommodations in the area, looking at the entire roadway network as a whole. However, since we are looking at Dresden Drive at these key intersections, we want to provide some input to that effort as part of this study. So we'll be looking at to develop some considerations for that study, including some trade-offs for accommodating bicycle traffic along Dresden Drive by either narrowing lanes or removal of on-street parking. So that's going to be one aspect of this study. And lastly, we'll also want to include some considerations for traffic impact analysis that could be performed in the future as some of these potential development proposals advance to real applications to the city. We want to make some recommendations, considerations for those, how those traffic analysis could be performed when those development proposals come to the city. The next slide. So as part of the study, we'll be looking to update the traffic study memo. Part of that you have already seen uploaded to the project website, which detailed the new data that we collected, the methodology that we are following to do the analysis, and later we'll also be including the recommendations that we come up with following the analysis to the traffic study. Currently, when you review the traffic study memo, it'll identify all the increases in traffic volumes at all the intersections and roadway segments, and also you'll see the capacity analysis at the key intersections. Those 5 intersections that we have chosen to do the capacity analysis to understand the level of service and the delay experienced by motorists when traveling through those intersections, including at Peachtree, Apple Valley, LJ, Caldwell, and Claremont. Finally, the findings of the project will be documented in a final study report, which will be the planning document where we'll summarize the process that we have followed in coming up with the recommendations. It will have a summary of the existing conditions and also the traffic analysis that will be documented in the traffic study memo. It will also detail some of the key findings from the analysis that we have performed, which will inform our recommendations. It'll also include the improvements that we are then considering at each of the study intersections and the roadway segments. At 4 of the key intersection locations, this study will also advance the recommendations to develop some conceptual engineering drawings to show the actual engineering drawings on an aerial and to show exactly what kind of improvements they look like, and we'll also develop some cost estimates to understand how those individual projects could be delivered, programmed, delivered, designed in the future. Next slide. And so in the next several weeks, we'll be developing those recommendations, as I mentioned, and some of the key dates for those future items are shown on this slide. We intend to further update the traffic study, include the recommendations with it, and publish that to the project website by the end of this month. Following that, we'll be looking to conduct our second public meeting, which will be focusing on those draft recommendations to bring in front of you and receive comments and look to update those as we go there. And we are intending for that second public meeting to happen in the middle of April. From that meeting, we'll be looking to revise the draft traffic study and the recommendations based on the comments that received at that public meeting, and publish that revised traffic study and recommendations to the project website again sometime in middle of May. After which we'll be planning to present those recommendations to the mayor and council towards the end of May, with an eye of finalizing the effort, finalizing the traffic study and the study report, the planning document, sometime in the middle of June, and have that again published to the project website. So just like we have today, there are two more opportunities for public opportunities for comments and revisions, one in the middle of April and one towards the end of May. These dates are again included on the project website, and as we firm up in each of these dates, any updates will be published to the project website also. So at this time, I want to open the forum for any questions. And like Aaron mentioned before, you can find the chat function within the Zoom application. You can type in the questions there, and one of us will read that out, and we'll be able to answer those live. And if you choose, you can also raise your hand, and we can answer the questions that way too. And as we kind of wrap up and look for questions to come in, I just want to take a second to let you all know that I have here Don's email and contact information from the city, and also my information. I'm the project manager, and my information, email and phone number is there. All the information that we have talked about today is uploaded onto the project website for your review. And should you have comments or questions, you can feel free to contact the project team and submit your comments by Monday, March 14th, so we can compile them and get ready for our next meeting.
And if I may add something in it, just to let everybody know, in case it wasn't clear, the next meetings, the public meetings, will be in person as opposed to virtual. We are open up at City Hall now. So that will give you an opportunity to interact one-on-one with representatives from Gresham Smith, as well as from Public Works in regard to this. The purpose of tonight's meeting was basically to give you an update on the study information. As you can see, that was what was presented. There's been no recommendations prepared as of today. And that will follow through. Your comments are important at this point. So if you've not looked at the information online, please do so. It's under the Public Works website under studies. And we do try to keep that information up to date. And in regard to any changes on the other meetings and everything, we will be using every resource we have through our communications department to let everybody know if there's any changes to it, or and what information will be presented. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Gresham Smith and our communications department to address any questions.
Okay, we have a couple of questions. I'll start reading them. This one is from Douglas Miller. Will there be recommendations for the bridge between Winding and Bambi?
So this study will not address the bridge. Is that Don? Is that a question? Oh, you're on mute, Don.
I was off mute and I turned myself on to mute. Sorry. It will not include recommendations for the bridge. Obviously, the winding lane and will be evaluated, but in Dresden itself, but there are proposed improvements down the road for that area, but the bridge itself will not be included in this.
Okay, another one, the 105% increase on Camille, is that a math problem or real car traffic increase?
So the percent increases, I think I'll take another, want to take another stab at explaining those. So those are, percent increases, not absolute value increases. So the traffic itself on Camille, whatever that, we counted based on our traffic counts, based on the future projections, the growth in traffic in, from today all the way up until 2047. So that 25-year growth, plus all the traffic generated by the planned and potential developments in the area, comes up to 105% of, so it's almost doubles of what the current traffic levels are.
Okay, and you might have answered this, but she followed up with this is Chrisman Famil, followed up with what is the magnitude of increase in cars? That might have been a follow-up.
Yes, and we have, I don't have that right in front of me, but we have those details in all those absolute values numbers in the report for each of the 9 scenarios. So for the low, medium, and the high, and also the 2027, 2037, and 2047 horizon years. All those numbers are included in the traffic study.
Okay, and I will, a shorter way to get to that website is www.tinyurl.com/Dresden Drive. And that's tinyurl.com/Dresden Drive if you don't want to type in that long address. Okay, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. Maybe another one just came in. Okay. This is from Ash. Thank you for the recent updated pedestrian crosswalks on Dresden in between Appalachia and Camille, which include new LED signs as well as embedded LED in the road. This hopefully will get drivers' attention to pay attention to pedestrians trying to cross in this very busy residential and retail area. So not a question, but a thanks. Okay, we've got one from Douglas Miller. Will there be recommendations for the turn lanes at Dresden, Bambi, Brookline Circle, both directions, east and west?
I don't. So this study will not look at improvements. I don't think we'll look at that intersection and provide improvements at that intersection.
And in the chat, we have something. I just lost it. Could there be speed humps put on Dresden to slow the traffic?
On Dresden itself, no, because it is a higher classification of roadway, and Dresden actually carries a lot of traffic. So because of that, the speed bumps are not an effective strategy for that kind of roadway. But there might be other roadways which can consider traffic calming measures such as speed bumps and speed cushions.
Okay, I do have a comment from Facebook that questioning the streetscape lighting, a large portion of the streetscape light posts are inoperable in inhibiting pedestrian safety at night.
That's really something that's not related to this study, but we appreciate the input. If you would, go to our website and go under Brookhaven Connect and write in your concern in regard to that. We'll have somebody take a look at that. Georgia Power actually takes care of the maintenance of the street lights in that area. So we would end up contacting them. And of course, if you type in regard to street lights, it will provide you the information on how to contact Georgia Power as well.
And then another comment, the pavement markings on Dresden from Claremont through the first half mile are so worn that they are barely visible in the daylight and are completely invisible at night and when raining. So there's that. Not sure it's in the scope of the study, but I did want to let you know there was that comment.
Okay, and again, thank you for that. And if you would again, go to the Brookhaven Connect and put that in, we'll have somebody take a look at that. In fact, we had a meeting today with the striping people, so we can get that added to the list.
Okay. We have a few
And
things on chat. Oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to circle back. I was able to look at one of the questions, the Dresden, Bambi, and Brookline Circle that is just east of Winding Lane. So we were mainly concerned with the intersections, between Dresden and Peachtree that can be added. That intersection is not one of our study intersections that we showed at the beginning of the slides. Just wanted to clarify that.
And in the chat, we have Douglas thanking us for the update and forum. And thank you for participating. And then another question, could the traffic lights on Dresden be timed to lower the speed on the street?
The as part of this project, we will be making recommendations for improvements at the intersections itself, additional lanes and additional traffic phasing, such as green arrows for helping with the left turns and things like that. So once that's done, just like any maintenance, the timing will be updated on a regular basis on Dresden Drive, but not specifically to address speeding. Some of the some of the considerations that we're looking at should help with that. Design consideration should help with that issue, but not the timing of the signals itself will not directly address that issue.
Okay, and I think that maybe this question's been answered, but I'm going to ask it again so that we can get that. When will the proposed intersection improvements be presented, given the increase in traffic at Peachtree, Dresden, and Apple Valley?
Yes, so so far we have done the analysis based on the traffic volume increases. So our next couple of weeks are going to be focused on developing the recommendations specifically for those intersections and the roadways that we shared. So the plan for us is to have the updated traffic study with the recommendations also published to the website by the end of this month. And then you will again have 2 weeks. That report will be there on the website for 2 weeks before we schedule the next public meeting. At the next public meeting, which we are expecting to be face to face, we will be bringing those recommendations to share with the public and receive comments and feedback at that time.
And for the audience on Facebook Live, I'll go into the comments and put links to the website so you can find those. Okay, and another question, will you be looking at Dresden Drive with a complete streets design lens? Are you considering narrowing car lanes to make Dresden safer for everyone? Are bikes and pedestrian facilities part of your review?
I think I've got all of that. So we are definitely looking at a complete streets approach for the intersection improvements. We are specifically only looking at the intersections. We're not looking at the entire Dresden Drive corridor. Just to be clear as to what the scope of this project is, we're specifically looking at those intersections along Dresden Drive. And as we are developing the engineering drawings, we're going to focus mainly on those 4 intersections: the intersection at Dresden and Apple Valley, Dresden and Ellijay and Caldwell, and also Dresden and Claremont. We are looking at pedestrian and bike accommodations at all those intersections. I want to reiterate that as the city proceeds to update the bike ped trail plan in developing a multimodal plan in the near future, Dresden Drive will be a corridor that will be assessed as part of that plan to as to how to accommodate bike traffic along Dresden, because that effort will be able to look at it from a network-wide perspective and see how to accommodate bicyclists in the area.
And if it helps any to address that part, the request for qualifications for consultants will be begin advertised by the end of this month. So that is something that is on the radar, and we will be working diligently to bring a consultant on board to address those. And a lot of the recommendations that come out of this study will obviously be applied into that and used as part of the material.
I am not seeing anything new come in at the moment.
All right, are there any other questions, comments? Nathan, do y'all have anything else to add, or?
No, if no further questions, I still want to make sure that you can still submit your comments to those emails, and we'll be receiving those until Monday, March 14th, and we'll definitely be considering and using those as we develop the recommendations for this project.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions or.
There is a question, will this recording be placed on the Facebook page? Yes, it will be on our Facebook page. And it will also be on our YouTube page, but yes, it's live on Facebook now, and I will make sure it stays there.
All right, well, thank everybody for participating. Again, any comments, questions that you have, please get them submitted by Monday, March 14th. We do appreciate and value your input, and the study will proceed based on all that information. Again, thank you, everybody, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.